Ladies and gentlemen, it's the second episode of the week. We told you we were bringing you a showdown between Bennett and Elrod, putting to see who could put together the best concert lineup, and that is not what we're doing. Sometimes you got to call an audible, but you never break promises. We're calling an audible, but we told you you were getting two episodes this week. This is episode number 2 this week. Welcome to Convince Me. Welcome in, everybody. This is Convince Me. I am Andy Rutherford, joined as always by Mr. Brian Bennett, not joined as usual by Mr. Casey Elrod. But Bennett, you're here. How are you tonight?
Here. I'm mixed here. I'm a little sad that Elrod couldn't join us tonight, but I'm also really excited about tonight's topic. It's something I think me and you could talk about for hours. So we're going to try to keep this as short as possible, though, for the
Absolutely.
listener's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Elrod did have something come up, unable to record, but we had promised you guys 2 episodes this week. So that topic we said was going to be on episode 49. We'll bump it to episode 51 or some point after that. We can't bump it to next week because next week's our big episode number 50 and our 1 year anniversary. And you'll find out what that topic is at the end of the show. But tonight, myself and Mr. Bennett had to call an audible, pick a new subject literally like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and do all our research in that short amount of time. But before we get into that, we're going to get into your second weekly shill of the week. Make sure you're following us on all of our social medias. We can be found, probably our most active page would be our Facebook page, facebook.com/convince me show. A vast majority of Tuesday nights, you're going to get a video preview of every episode over there for the time being. There's a chance that goes away sometime soon, so make sure you're checking them out right now. This episode, barring any technical difficulties, will be coming up on Tuesday there for the preview, so make sure you're always checking those out. Facebook.com/convince me show. You can also find us over on Twitter at Convince Me Show. Occasionally, we let you guys pick the topic. Had we had more time, we might have let you guys pick the alternate topic tonight. But occasionally we let you guys do it. When we do throw those polls up, we throw them up over on Twitter. Make sure you're giving us a follow over there. If you're going to follow us on Facebook, if you're going to follow us on Twitter, you might as well follow us on Instagram. We can be found over there. Convince Me Show over on the gram as well. Nothing overly special about the Instagram page. No polls, no video previews. But hey, if you're going to follow us on the other two, you might as well follow us on that one. And then, of course, you can find every episode in its entirety in video format over on our YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/convince me show. Again, every single episode, video format with typically 3 ugly faces. This week, only 2 over on the YouTube. And of course, we are a podcast. We drop a vast majority of weeks on Wednesday mornings on YouTube and also wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If we're not where you listen to your favorite podcast, let us know and we'll do our best to get there. So, Mr. Bennett, we are a few days late as far as a preview here, but when you're looking at 162 game seasons, jumping in, 3 games in, it's still basically a preview. So tonight, myself and Mr. Bennett will be discussing this year's baseball season. We're back to 162 game schedule, hopefully, unless you're playing the Nationals, and then it might get shortened. But we're going to give you guys a breakdown of our MLB predictions for the year, kind of like we did with the NFL the last time Elrod had to skip a show. So, Bennett, you said you're looking forward to this one.
I am. I thought we did pretty good with our NFL picks for the most part. For the most part, we looked semi-smart. So I'm hoping, I would say I would venture to guess that me and you are probably more well versed in baseball than football, and we're pretty big football fans. So I think we should get every single one of these picks correct. We'll have 100% correct on everything. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, between the two of us, if we have a different answer, that just doubles our odds and practically guarantees one of us gets it right. So we're gonna start. We're gonna go through the 6 divisions in
For
MLB.
sure, every single one up.
We're gonna go through the 6 divisions. We're gonna pick who we think is gonna be the winners, and if we're gonna do that, we might as well start with what's probably going to be the most competitive one, and the one that's nearest and dearest to both mine and Mr. Bennett's heart, and that's going to be the National League East. Mr. Bennett, I will defer to you and let you go first. Who do you got winning the NL East this year?
New York, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not. This will be probably the one that we do definitely have contrast and viewpoints on. I'm going to go with your division leaders from last year. To no surprise, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. Last year, they led the MLB in hits, doubles, RBI, on base percentage, and total bases. And really, when you look at it, they pretty much retained the core of their group. They made it pretty far last year. They swept Miami in the NLDS. They went up 3-1 on the Dodgers, and I'm like, all right, we're 1 out away from a World Series. It feels like 1995 again. And in typical Atlanta Braves fashion, we completely blew it. Completely blew it. We know when they went down 3-2, I thought, okay, I expected them to get a loss. Then it went to 3-3, and I'm like, okay, 7. I was like, yep, here we go, Braves baseball. Here we go. So hopefully this year they don't choke it. They get back to the playoffs and make another run at it, and hopefully get into that World Series. A couple of big things for them is for us. We're going to get our ace pitcher Mike Soroka back very, very soon. That's huge. Ian Anderson was lights out last year. He's definitely a Rookie of the Year candidate. And Christian Pache will be up full time this year. We saw a glimpse of him last year. So I think these guys grouped in with your last year's MVP, Freddie Freeman, and the rest of the guys, I think they make a huge run at it, and they're going to be my favorite to win the NL East.
And I think that's smart. And when you say favorite, absolutely. I mean, it's really, you're looking at a division here. 4 teams are viable options to win the whole division. You're looking at, in the current playoff format, a division that could very easily get 3 teams in. If they expand the playoffs again this year, could get 4 teams in. It's a stacked division. My brain says that it's the Braves to lose. They're the standing champions. It's their division to lose, but I can't, in my heart of hearts, while my head says that, my heart can't do it. It's April. I'm still very optimistic about baseball, as I am every April. Ask me again in June or July, and my tone might begin to wane. But I gotta say, as a New York Mets fan, it is a time to be hopeful. It's a time that things aren't going like they always do. A change in ownership. Steve Cohen comes in. And the Wilpons are finally gone, which, that's kind of been widely known that a lot of people felt that the ownership group with the Wilpons is what has held the Mets back for the last 20 years or so. But Steve Cohen comes in, he's a billionaire, and he's not afraid to spend his money. Big moves. Of course, everybody's going to talk about the Francisco Lindor. the trade that brings in Lindor, the contract extension. And while that is huge, that kind of overshadows a lot of the other moves the Mets made this offseason. Part of that trade doesn't get talked about is the Mets got Carlos Carrasco too. Who is going to enter into an already solid pitching lineup. Jacob deGrom, I'll talk about later, is the best pitcher in all of baseball, in my opinion, and a lot of opinions. Noah Syndergaard might be back at some point this season. You're adding Carrasco. Marcus Stroman accepted his qualifying offer after missing last year due to opting out. This rotation is getting back to what it should be and even better. You look at the holes they filled in the offseason, no huge names, but a lot of good names to make up a very solid squad and a very deep squad as far as talent off the bench. James McCann, Jonathan Villar, Albert Almora, Kevin Pillar to the bullpen. They added Tawan Walker, Trevor May. The Mets have made moves. The Mets have not been penny pinchers this offseason. Not to mention, you've still got Rookie of the Year from a few years ago, home run king Pete Alonso, Dom Smith, who kind of had a breakout year in the shortened season last year. There's a lot to be hopeful for about the Mets. Now, it's April. It is the Mets. Ask me again in July or August. But right now, everything's falling into place to look good. While this could go one of four ways, when it's that close, I'm going to go with what I want it to be, and what I want it to be is the Mets. But like I said, my head says it's the Braves division to lose. But it should be some fun baseball to watch in the East this year, regardless.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, going to be the tightest division in baseball. And it's like I was talking to you the other day, I seen like an article where they had put like 4 teams from the NL East that are World Series favorites. I'm like, how is that even possible to have 4 World Series favorites? There should be 1 World Series. There's only 1 World Series. There's only 1 representative from each team or from each league there. So I don't know how all 4 are gonna, or 4 out of the 5 rather, are going to make the World Series. So maybe they made some rule changes where you have 4 teams represent
Who
from
knows?
each league.
And how much would it suck to be a Marlins fan right now?
I try to think of something positive to say for them. I mean, I guess good weather down there. I don't know.
Oh, so much weather that nobody goes to the games, but that's beside the point. Moving along, staying in the National League, going to the Central. I'll start this one off. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of potential when we look at Milwaukee. And I do think Milwaukee could win that division, but Milwaukee's not my pick in this division. My pick in this division is the 2020 division winner, and that's the about said Arizona Cardinals. I'm going back to the NFL, the St. Louis Cardinals. This is a team that won the division last year and basically are returning the exact same team from last year, except they added the best third baseman in baseball with Nolan Arenado. The Central looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race. I don't think the Pirates will obviously not be in it. I don't think the Reds have that big a comeback. The Cubs are not what they were a few years ago. I think this is a 2-team race. And because of that, I'm going to go with the team, like I said, that's returning basically the same team except one major upgrade. And I'm going to say the Cardinals in the Central.
That's exactly what I've got down to. Is the Cardinals. The Cubs aren't exactly the team that they were a few years ago in my eyes. I don't see a threat from Cincinnati or the Pirates. You could make a case for the Brewers, but I don't think not yet for them. It's not quite their time. And like you said, they're adding a Gold Glover there at the corner. They've got a guy who's going to give them 30 to 40 home runs. I know a big knock on him was where he played at before in Colorado, but I mean, he raked outside of there, so I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. And if you look at their pitching staff too, they've got a couple of solid arms in Flaherty and Wainwright. I know Wainwright's getting a little bit older in years there, but still that should be some solid support for them on the pitching side. And other than Arenado, they've got probably the best catcher in baseball, I dare say, certainly a top three. And they've also, a lot of people forget, they got Paul Goldschmidt as well. So they've got a whole lot of talent. I think they should take this division. It really shouldn't be all that close.
Yeah, I completely agree there. Like I said, 2-horse race. And speaking of 2-horse races, we'll move to the NL West here. Bennett, who you got out west?
This one to me is, you said 2-horse race in it maybe, but I mean, the Dodgers are just they're too good. I think they are just completely stacked from top to bottom. And I was looking at this lineup, and it really reminds me of that 1995 Cleveland Indians team. If you look back, where like every single person at every single position was like an all-star player. Run through this real quick. On the pitching staff, you've got Kershaw, you've got Trevor Bauer, you've got Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, Dustin May. Those are all-star pitchers on their rotation. You look at even in their bullpen, they've got Jansen, they've got David Price, and one guy who I'm really pulling for. I do not like the Dodgers. I don't. I hope they lose every game. They won't. They'll be the best team in baseball. But one guy we'll pull for is a guy that played for the Nashville Sounds that we saw a lot, and that's Jimmy Nelson. So I'll be pulling for him to have a solid year. I hope none of these other guys have a solid year. But then you look at the actual team that in the field, you've got Gavin Lux, who's a highly regarded talent. You've got Turner at third, Corey Seager, Corey Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Muncy at first. So really, this it's an all-star team that's going out there and playing every day. So I think they'll take the division. I think they'll take playoffs, and I think they'll probably take the World Series again until somebody steps some dethrones them. It's
I agree. I don't want to agree. It's boring to agree. And I'll be honest, I really, really like this young Padres team in San Diego. They've got all the makings there to be another stacked team in a few years, but they're still so young. The Dodgers are still so good right now. I don't think the Padres are quite there yet. I think we might be talking about the Padres a lot over the next few years. I think the Padres could make a splash as a wild card team in the playoff this year. But as young as they are with the inconsistencies, I don't that you see a lot with young teams. I don't see them pulling out the division. The Dodgers are just too stacked. You talk about the only thing I'll add to what you've already said, that pitching rotation. David Price is making $30 million a year, over $30 million a year, and didn't make the rotation. He's coming out of the bullpen. That's how stacked they are. Yeah, the Dodgers is the easy choice. It's the boring choice, but it seems like it's the right choice for that division.
like this team is not even fair. I mean, how many wins are they going to wind up with? Do we see them reach as many wins as that? Was it the 2001 Mariners
Yeah.
that won like a ridiculous amount of games? I forget. It was well over 100. I forget the exact number. I don't want to be off, so I could Google it real quick, but I'm not. But what was it, like 120 wins or something? Was that what it was?
I think it was one. I don't think it was quite 120, but it was one. It was
It was
more than
close.
110. Yeah. All right. Well,
It's something crazy. That's where they're going to be.
yeah. Well, we will we'll probably talk a little more about them, but right now we're going to take a break. If you're joining us on Facebook, make sure you come back tomorrow and catch the podcast, whether on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. If you're with us on the podcast or on YouTube, we will be right back. And we are back. We've covered the National League, our predictions. Just a quick recap. In the East, Bennett picks the Mets, or Bennett picks the Braves. I picked the Mets. And then we were both boring and picked the Cardinals, and we were both very boring and picked the Dodgers. So moving on to the American League, it's my turn to go first. We'll start in the East, and I'll continue to be boring, at least at the beginning here. I think we talked about 2-horse races in the Central and the West of the National League. I really foresee might turn into a 3-team race, but probably a 2-team race in the American League East. I don't think the Red Sox are there this year. I think the Blue Jays could be. Don't think they're quite there. Of course, the Rays coming off a fantastic season last year. But my pick for the American League East, as bad as it pains me to say, is going to be the New York Yankees. When you look at this team on paper, and the big question is if healthy, this Yankees team is one of the most talented teams in the game. They're up there right with the Dodgers. They've just, with some of their star players there, the big question with the Yankees is injury. And it has been for the last several years. But if you just look at who they have on this roster when healthy, this lineup has impressive power, the most power in the league. Their pitching staff has several top of the rotation arms. They've got a deep bullpen. They've got everything you need to have a successful season. Like I said, though, over the last few years, it's been the injury bug that's killed the Yankees. When you look at some of their big stars, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, both those guys, when healthy, can absolutely murder baseballs. They just haven't been healthy. Big pitching signings in the offseason with Corey Kluber and Jamison Talon, both fantastic pitchers, but both coming off injuries. So it is kind of risky to take the Yankees. But if they're healthy, I've just got to assume they are going to be healthy. And if they're healthy, I think it's easily the Yankees division. I think if injuries come into play, I think the Rays come into play. What do you think, Bennett?
I just want to tell everybody listening that me and Mr. Rutherford did not compare notes before we went live. I'm also picking the Yankees, and I have literally right after Yankees, I say if they stay healthy. There's a case to be made about Tampa. I know the Yankees made it into the postseason. They swept Cleveland. They were looking good, and then they met up with Tampa, and Tampa took care of them. But you look too, they stayed hurt. Like Russ said, they stayed hurt a lot last year. I'm really worried about them staying hurt again this year because what they've done is they've got a lot of huge names like that. Ruts, they can play ball, they can murder a ball. But a lot of these guys on this list, you look through Gary Sanchez, injury prone, Luke Voigt, injury prone, DJ LeMahieu, injury prone, Aaron Judge, injury prone, not Mike Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, injury prone, Brett Gardner, injury prone. List goes on and on. They did add Kluber, who was, I believe, a 2017 Cy Young Award winner. So they're going to have to really rely on their pitching. They got a great pitcher in Garrett Cole, and they've also got Jamison Talon. So they've got some great. Oh, and also Chapman. Chapman's got to keep it together this year. If all these guys can keep it together, and even if the injury bug hits one or two of them, if it doesn't just hit all of them at once, it's going to be theirs to win. They'll find a way to win the division one way or the other. One guy to look out for, and I think he needs to really pull his weight, and he may be a guy like a dark horse to really pull this team, and that's Clint Frazier out there. And I think in the outfield, I think he plays left field. He came over from Cleveland. He's like I said, he's not a huge name on this list, but he could be a guy that when some of these guys go down, really step up and really take the Yankees into the postseason. So we will see. They got to stay healthy, though.
They do. Moving into the American League Central, Bennett, who you got in the middle of the country?
The American League Central, I've got a team that did not win their division last year. As a matter of fact, last year they saw their first winning season since 2012. They lost in the wild card, but they are World Series contenders this year, and that's the Chicago White Sox. I'm looking at Rut laughing. This is hilarious. Now, let me talk a little bit real quick. I don't want to spend too much time. I save some of this. They're a very, very young team, so I could definitely see them not winning division. But if all these guys pull together, this team is loaded. They've got some really great pitching. Um, they've got a great guy out of the bullpen, and Kopech. He can hit 100 miles an hour if they can just keep it all together. They've got the perfect mix of some veteran guys and then some very, very young, unproven guys that are hungry to prove themselves. Um, I think they definitely take the division. Um, they've got a super, super bright future. And like I said, if everything lines up for them, I could see them making a huge splash this year. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rutherford.
We really should have compared notes to make this show interesting. The Twins are back-to-back winners of that division. The Twins will have another good year this year. I love this White Sox team. I really do. They were a great team last year. They were a young team last year, and they're still young, but they're young with another year of experience. They've got some playoff experience. They added to their rotation in the offseason. They brought in Lance Lynn, who's a solid veteran who's going to eat some innings and be a mentor to some of these young arms. They brought in Liam Hendricks, who can hopefully lock down the ninth inning for them, give them that shutout closer they didn't have last year. They've got one of my favorite young pitchers in the game in Lucas Giolito. He is fascinating to watch. He is still there. You look at this lineup, Jose Abreu, last year's MVP, Tim Anderson, last year's batting champion, Yohan Moncada, who's a fantastic young player. All these guys are back. You take all that talent. Oh, and they hired Tony La Russa as their manager in the offseason, one of the greatest managers in the history of baseball. I'm predicting a big year for the White Sox. This is one division. Yes, I think the Twins will be a pretty good team, but this is, if any of these divisions we've talked about, if any of them are going to be not close, I think it's going to be the American League Central. I think the White Sox are that much better than everybody else in the division.
Yeah, I think that the White Sox is a team that we'll get a taste of them this year and see what they're capable of doing. But when we start looking ahead to like 2022, 2023, 2024, this White Sox team could be like the Dodgers are now, just ridiculous talent. But it'll be interesting to see.
That it will. Let's see if we get this one the same. This might be our worst show ever. Next time we'll just have to, do something to make it entertaining. But the last division we haven't touched on, the American League West, and I'm going a little off course here. And judging by Bennett's face, he may be too. Of course, the A's won this division last year. The A's are going to be another solid team this year. The Rangers, no. The Astros will be, they lost George Springer. They're still going to be a solid team, banging on their trash cans and whatnot. But my pick is a team that has all the talent in the world and can't seem to get there over the last few years. And I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Angels in the West. When you look at the heart of their lineup with Mike Trout, with Shohei Ohtani, and with Anthony Rendon, is one of the best 3-4-5 hitting combos in the majors, or Actually, I think Otani's batting second right now. So best 2, 3, 4 lineup in the majors. Mike Trout, in my opinion, and in a lot of opinions, is the best player in baseball right now. He's just had nothing around him, but there's pieces around him now in the field, in that everyday lineup. When you really look at their lineup, Justin Upton's in a little bit of a comeback right now. David Fletcher's a very underrated piece of this team. And really, when you look at it, really the weak point of this lineup is the human form formerly known as Albert Pujols. Right now, he's the weak point of the lineup, and he's still going to run into a few baseballs and crush them. He's not what he once was, but he still can be. He still can contribute here and there, not consistently. But this is another just fantastic lineup. Of course, the big question with the Angels has been pitching. It's something they weren't able to go get in the offseason. Pitching is the big question. Pitching is why this team is not overly viewed as the favorite to win this division. Of course, Shohei Otani has been fantastic in his outing already this year. And it's still, that guy blows my mind to see a pitcher in the American League also batting second. It's really cool to see that guy playing both sides to play offense and be not only just a decent pitcher. We've seen pitchers that can hit in our lifetime. Bennett remembers Mike Hampton, who was a fantastic with the bat, but he was a average pitcher. Shohei Otani has the ability to be an above average, even great pitcher and hitter. So fun to watch there. I'm going a little bit off of the beaten path, and I'm going to take the Angels. Bennett?
You know, our very first pick was different. I picked Braves, you picked Mets. Other than that, yeah, we can pretty much
Wow.
close up shop for today. I also went with the Angels, but how they're going to do it, here's how I've got them doing it. Mike Trout is considered to be the best player in baseball, but the big knock on him is, of course, getting to the postseason. So he needs to get into postseason to cement his legacy. So he's gonna ask, what do I need to do to cement my legacy? And they're going to have to win the pennant. In order to win the pennant, he's going to need some help from a guy named Al. And Al is going to bring his Angels to help these Angels. And that's how they're going to win the pennant this year. That is an Angels in the Outfield reference. If anybody got that, props to y'all. In all seriousness, though, Angels, they have too much talent really not to succeed. It'll be completely on them if they don't really take the division this year. There's a guy, a pitcher, Rut hadn't talked about, Dylan Bundy. I'm really high. I've always liked Dylan Bundy. I think he'll do great. Of course, Shohei Otani, I hope he can stay healthy this year. We saw a little bit of what he could do a couple of years ago. And even Jose Quintana is another great pitcher who can, at the bare minimum, eat up innings for him. And Red already touched a lot on a lot of the guys at the plate, Rendon, Upton, Trout, Otani, and even Pujols, which Pujols is a shell of himself. But I think Pujols at this point is probably just, he's definitely going to contribute a little bit, but at this point, he's just trying to compile numbers for his Hall of Fame, much deserved Hall of Fame. But like you said, it's not the same Pujols from the early 2000s. So we'll see. But I think that the Angels have everything going their way. If they were to ever make a push and to get over that hurdle, it will be this year. This is their time to do it.
All right. Well, if we haven't bored you enough, let's see if we can get something a little different here. We've talked about who we think are winning these divisions, Bennett. We're not going to tell you who we think our wild card teams are going to be, but who are the two teams you have in the World Series and who do you have winning?
Man, I'm scared to say. From the NL, I I would love to see the Braves do it. I do think that they've got the talent to do it. Um, hopefully, hopefully they do get there, but until proven otherwise, I do think it's going to be the Dodgers. I hate to say the Dodgers are going to be in the World Series, but the Dodgers will be in the World Series. From the American League side, there's some great teams you could put in there. Tampa is definitely one. New York, but looking at it, I do think that the White Sox are going to make a huge run. I've got a lot of faith, and I'm putting a lot into the Chicago White Sox. So I think that they will represent the American League. And when it comes down to the World Series, I'm going to say the Dodgers win 4 games to 2. So they'll win it in Game 6.
Well, we're kind of similar, but we're also different. So that's a
All
good thing.
right.
Um, Here's the crazy thing with me. Last year, when COVID hit, we knew we were getting a very shortened season. We knew things were going to be crazy. Things wouldn't go like they always do. I made a flippant comment of the earlier in the year of who I thought would be in the World Series. I said it's going to be two random teams like blank and blank. Neither of those teams made it to the World Series, but both of those teams definitely took steps to get to the World Series, enough that I'm picking them as my World Series matchup again this year. Last year I did it because it was random and crazy. This year I did it because I think both teams have the ability to get there. From the National League, I'm taking a team that I didn't pick to win a division. I'm taking a team that I think gets into the playoff as a wild card, and I'm taking the San Diego Padres to get to the World Series. Bennett, you compared this Dodgers team to that 95 Indians team or that 01 Mariners team. What do those teams have in common? They didn't win a World Series. And when you look at this Padres team, I said earlier on, I didn't think, as young as they are, they'd have the consistency to win this division when they've got the Dodgers in the division. But you don't have to be consistent over 6 months in the playoffs. You got to be consistent for a month. And they have all the talent there to do that. They've got the pitching, the starting rotation. Danielson LeMay, who's hurt right now, will in all likelihood be back before the All-Star break, which means if he stays healthy, he'll be there come playoff time. They've got Yu Darvish, they've got Blake Snell, they've got the bullpen, they've got this young phenom lineup with Tatis and Machado. I think this team gets hot, and I think when this Padres team is hot, they're going to be tough to beat. I've got Padres in the World Series. Where we're similar, I do have the White Sox in the World Series. Just with all this talent, you bring in Tony La Russa, a manager that knows how to get to the World Series and win a World Series, and you give him this talent. Here you go, Mr. La Russa. I think the White Sox get there, and I think the White Sox win it. So my prediction is the White Sox over the Padres in 6.
Awesome. I love it. Something different.
Something different. Hopefully some of these will be different, although I'm not so sure.
I'm
But
scared. I'm scared.
we'll find out. Let's break down some of the individual awards for this season. And I want to start with the American League. I'm going to start with Rookie of the Year. And to be honest, this one seemed really, really easy for me to pick who was going to win. And that is Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays, who still qualifies as a rookie this year. Regardless of how incredible he played last year, arguably the best offensive postseason performance last year. He set the MLB record for postseason home runs. He set the MLB record for most hits by a rookie in a postseason, and then went on to set the record for most hits in a postseason. He was the ALCS MVP, and he only played 23 regular season games last year. He still qualifies as a rookie this year. In those 23 games last year, he hit 7 home runs, batted .281. Was it a fluke? Maybe, but I think if you're looking at who's the safest bet to win Rookie of the Year in the American League, I'm going to say a Rosarina.
Okay, for me, the guy that I really, really like out of the American League will not get Rookie of the Year just because I don't see him getting called up soon enough to have a full year. So maybe next year, but that's Wander Franco. But that's next year. We're talking about this year. And the guy that I have winning Rookie of the Year for this year is a guy whose stock is on a rapid rise, and that's Andrew Vaughn, the first baseman slash designated hitter for Chicago White Sox. This has basically been Halfway White Sox podcast up to this point. A little bit about this guy. He comes out of University of Cal. He was your 2018 Golden Spikes winner. He wears number 25, so you know he's going to be good. 25 is that's my number. He was the number 3 pick in 2019 in rookie ball. He slashed 600, a 600 batting average, a 625 on base percentage, and a 933 slugging percentage. So he just absolutely destroyed rookie ball. He had no business even being there. He quickly moved up to Class A Advanced and stayed there for the rest of the year. And he's also a USA national team member. He was invited to the 2021 spring training season as a non-roster invitee. He wound up making the 40-man roster, mostly in part to Eloy Jimenez's injury. Yeah, he's going to be out for like 5 to 6 months, I think, with a torn or strained pec, something like that. So he made the 40-man roster. Well, he did so good that he made the opening day roster. So you've got a guy who's basically shot up from rookie ball to making the opening day roster for a very stacked White Sox team. MLB 100 prospects had him ranked number 14, and they have him projected as a 300 hitter with 30 home runs. And I think he does that right out of the gate. He's already mashing. So I think he doesn't have any problem hovering right around 300. And I think 30 home runs is definitely achievable. So my pick, Mr. Andrew Vaughn from the White Sox.
Hey, something different.
Something different.
Let's see if we're different in the National League. Who do you have as your Rookie of the Year in the National League, Bennett?
Well, this one I actually hope that we have the same. You can call me partial if you want, but my pick for in a Rookie of the Year is Christian Pache, the Braves center fielder. This guy comes from the Dominican Republic. He's super young. He's just 22 years old. He got a taste of baseball last year in 2020 in the postseason, and you know he proved that the stage wasn't too big for him. He showed great plate discipline, and in game 2 of the NLCS, he got his first RBI, and then in game 3 of the NLCS, he got his first home run. He's billed as the next Andrew Jones, and you'll see why. He's an elite defender. He was unanimously voted, best in the minor leagues for fielding. He's slated to be a perennial Gold Glove Award winner, just like Andrew was. Thing with Pache, if he can add some power, he should be a complete 5-tool potential player. A little bit of a background from him. He was your 2018 and 2019 All-Defense team, and he was in the minor league All-Stars in the 2017, 2018, and 2019 season. And then during his really short, brief stint he had in the minor leagues across AA and AAA, which was roughly about 130 games, he slashed 277 with which is 277 batting average. He had a 340 on base percentage and a 462 slugging percentage with 12 homers and 61 RBIs. And this may be a little bit of an omen, but we could see his first Gold Glove this year. And the reason I say that is he was awarded a brand new number to wear in the 2021 season, and the Braves gave him number 25. So this could be the second coming of Andrew Jones out there in center field. And we've seen how Andrew's career turned out. He's trying to get in the Hall of Fame. So Mr. Pache here he's got a great chance at the Rookie of the Year if everything just clicks for him.
That's interesting. I expected you to pick a Brave, and it came down to two guys for me, and one of them was a Brave, but it wasn't him. It was actually Ian Anderson, was someone I looked at in that Braves rotation who has really great chance to win the Rookie of the Year this year, but that's not who I went with. I went with Ke'Bryan Hayes for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and one of the big contributing factors to me going with him, as with any Rookie of the Year, you look at playing time and how much playing time that guy's going to get, especially if they're on a good team. Hayes is not on a good team. He's on an awful team, and he is going to play every chance that they get to give him this year. He has every chance to be the best player on that Pirates team, which is not saying a whole lot, but he's going to have the opportunities. He was the late year call up last year, got called up in September, only played for that last month of the season. But in that last month of the season, he batted 376, 442 on base percentage, 682 slugging, 5 home runs, 14 extra base hits in just a month up at the majors last year. There's not going to be a lot around him. Don't expect him to have 100, even probably 60 or 70 RBIs this year, just because it's Pirates. Nobody's going to get on base ahead of him. But I do think he has the biggest contributing factor you need to be Rookie of the Year, and that's opportunity. And I think he's going to get every bit of it. So I'm going Hayes. This is good. 2 individual awards, 2 different. We both went different on each one. I'm like, this is much more interesting. Let's see how we do on these Cy Youngs. Moving into Cy Young, best pitchers in each league, starting with the American League. And I'm going to go with a name I've already mentioned, a guy, and Bennett rolls his eyes. Here we go. One of my, not my favorite, but one of my favorite pitchers to watch in baseball right now, Lucas Giolito. Welcome to the Chicago White Sox podcast. I'm picking Giolito to win the Cy Young in the American League. 2019, he was an all-star. Last year, he was through the only no-hitter in the American League. This guy, nothing phases him. Last year, he made his postseason debut, his first time ever on the mound in a postseason game. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 run, 8 Ks. If he can span that into 30 starts over an entire season, I think Lucas Giolito, with that run support he's undoubtedly going to have behind him with that lineup, I think there's a good chance there's an argument to be made for Garrett Cole. There's a lot of questions, though, with that Yankee lineup and those injuries. So I'm going to go with Giolito for my American League Cy Young. Bennett, do you agree?
I'm going to give the people watching on YouTube a peek behind the curtain here. I circled it. You see what that says? Lucas Giolito. I'm a huge fan of this guy too. I liked the guy when he was with Washington. I liked his stuff. I thought he was, going to be the next great thing. He struggled, and he struggled mightily, and he got traded to Chicago in, I think, 2017, and he continued to struggle. I think he was up there for wild pitches, but things started to click, and they started to click around 2019. He showed great improvement. He was 10-1 to start the season, and he was an all-star. And I know last year was a very short year, so we got just a small glimpse of some of these guys. So it's kind of hard to project because, guys can get hot and they can get very cold. But we did see him last year throw a no-hitter. So we've seen the potential that Giolito has. And speaking of potential, this guy's got 100-mile-an-hour potential. So if he can and it looks like he's going to really start to kind of come into his own skin finally. I think I think he was drafted in like 2012 as a super highly touted prospect, and here we are nearly 10 years later, and he's really starting to come into his own. I'm definitely pulling for this guy. I'm with Rhett. I would love to see him as your AL Cy Young Award winner.
All right. Well, let's see if we're just as boring in the senior league. So National League, Cy Young. Bennett, who you got over there over in the National League?
Say, I think I'm partial, but I think it's very well warranted. This is a guy that I considered for Rookie of the Year, and that's Ian Anderson. So I figured, if he's up for Rookie of the Year, he should also be up for NL Cy Young. I was really, really impressed with him last year. I watched a lot of Braves baseball, so I got to witness firsthand watching him come into his own. Whenever Soroka went down, a lot of people said that's the season for the Braves, but Ian Anderson really stepped up in his absence. In 6 games in 2020, he went 3-2. He posted a 1.95 ERA with 41 Ks. That's the number I like to see there is the 41 strikeouts. He loves to rely on his fastball, which hovers around 95 miles an hour. I love seeing that. He was actually pretty legit in the playoffs too on the big stage. It didn't shake him. He had wins against the Reds and against Miami, and actually in the NLDS against Miami, he actually broke a record. He was the youngest pitcher in MLB postseason history to allow fewer than three hits. Sorry, while striking out 9 people. He went nearly 6 innings. He went 5 2/3 with 9 Ks and the shutout 2-0 win there. So if Ian Anderson stretches that out over a full season, that's good for me as a Braves fan. I hope so. And B, from that small sample that we see, if he piles those numbers together, I think he'll make a great, great case for an NL Cy Young Award winner. So we'll see. What about you, Rod?
Well, I disagree. And I am also very impartial, or very partial, when it comes to this category. The best pitcher in the major leagues, and I said Giolito is one of my favorite pitchers. He is one of, but my favorite pitcher, hands down, I think is the greatest pitcher. Again, I'm a little partial, but the greatest pitcher that the major leagues have seen in the last decade, and that's Jacob deGrom. He is the perfect modern day starting pitcher. He throws gas. Um, he's a flamethrower. He hit 102 in spring training this year. He not only does he throw the gas, he has that rare thing you want in a pitcher that you rarely get. You get that kind of smoke with precision accuracy. He not only does he have the velocity, he's got an excellent command of all 4 of his pitches. In the last 3 years, opposing hitters have batted 200 in the last 3 years against deGrom. Of course, he won the Cy Young 2018, won the Cy Young 2019, finished third in the Cy Young voting last year, although he had, again, I'm partial. There's an argument to be made. He should have won it for the 3rd year in a row last year. I think he finally, which has been something that's killed the Mets for years. Look at Johan Santana's run with the Mets. No run support. Jacob deGrom has been the best pitcher in baseball for the last 3 years with no run support. This year, looking at that roster, he should finally have that run support. And we're looking at a very high possibility of at least 20 wins, an astronomically low ERA. He's the best pitcher in baseball, and I think the best pitcher in baseball wins the Cy Young. So I'm going to go with deGrom. Much like I said for the division, sure, if it's close, I'm always going to pick the Mets. It's the Braves until somebody else beats them. The Cy Young in the National League, yeah, Trevor Bauer, whatever, last year, but it's Jacob DeGrom until somebody else beats him. So that's good. We got a little variety there.
I I tend to agree with you. I think dude is just lights out, but I just my hand and my pen just could not write that on paper. I couldn't put a med on there. No offense, but
I get
it
it.
it just it wasn't working. It did not work.
All right, let's see how close we are on these MVPs. Start with the American League. Bennett's already dreading it. I'll start here. American League MVP. I said Jacob DeGrom should win the National League Cy Young. He's the best pitcher in baseball. American League MVP. I'm going with the best player in baseball. I think Mike Trout continues to do Mike Trout things in an even more fascinating fashion with a better team around him. I think this Angels team, like I said, I think they win the division this year, and I think a big part of that is Mike Trout. I think he has even a huge year for Mike Trout, and we'll talk more about that when we get into predictions later on. But I think it's an easy choice to say that the best player in baseball will win MVP. I'm going Mike Trout. Bennett?
Well, here we go. My American League MVP. He's very talented. He's a great player. Um, he plays for the Angels, and that would be Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese superstar. This guy, we saw a little bit of what he could do in 2018, but if you think about it, this is a guy that we haven't really seen in the MLB since probably Babe Ruth. You know, just this rare combination of it's two players in one. You know, it's crazy. If he can stay healthy, which is that's the kick on it. If he can stay healthy, we could witness something this year that I know I've never seen in my lifetime. Like I said, 2018, he was your rookie of the year. He had a great season that year. He did miss 2019 to injury and also a good part of the very short 2020 to injuries. But I look for him to bounce back in 2020. I'm throwing all the chips in on Otani, and if you look, you know he's already out there throwing 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and he's already blasted a 450-foot home run with a 115 exit velocity on it. And I think it was the first pitch that he saw that he blasted out there. So when you look at it, Shohei Ohtani already has more home runs than Mike Trout. So if I don't know if he'll be able to keep it up, but at least for right now, he's one up on Trout. So either way, I think it's going to be super interesting to see both Shohei and Mike Trout, both of these guys, ball out this year. It'll be interesting, but I'm going with Otani.
Interesting choice, and somebody I did consider myself. Um, But again, I still think Mike Trout's the most talented player in baseball. Let's talk about National League. Bennett, who takes home the highest award in National League with the MVP?
You know, in I mean, I guess you could say also in the American League, but really in the National League, we're seeing this surgence of young talent that's sweeping the National League. There's several names that I could have went with. Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna, or Fernando Tatis Jr. But I'm not going with any of them. These guys are going to have brilliant careers, and these guys will all be MVPs, but not yet. There's one guy who's a little bit older than them, and he's still on top of that mountain until somebody pushes him off, and that's Cody Bellinger. Let's check the stats a little bit on him. He's your 2017 Rookie of the Year. He's already a two-time All-Star, 2019 Gold Glove winner, and a Silver Slugger in the same year. Oh, and he was also your 2019 MVP, and he's a 2020 World Series champion. And the crazy thing about this is he may just now be getting into his what they call prime years. So the best could still be to come for Cody Bellinger. He's scary good. He's good out there in the outfield. He's good at the plate. If you look at his home run totals, starting in 2017, he's hit 39, 25, 47, and then 12, which of course 12 was last year. So, that number is quite low because they didn't play but just like one game last year. So when you look at Cody Bellinger, he should be good for at least another 40 plus home runs. A Gold Glove award is very possible. Another Silver Slugger award is very possible. Another World Series win is very possible. So who's to say that another NL MVP isn't also very possible? So I'm going to ride the Cody Bellinger train this year until like some of these younger guys step up. So see.
You scared me for a minute, and I want to show you why. You circle things.
That's why I segued in like
You
that.
circle things in your notes. Look what I just circled in mine.
Oh my god.
3 names I have listed were the 3 names you said at first. Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto are going to be appointment television this year. Cody Bellinger is also very much in that argument. Cody Bellinger, the old guy of that group. Of those 3 I had circled, Acuna, the old guy of that group at the ripe old age of 23. There's a lot of good baseball, especially in this National League, for years and years to come. But when you look at those names, and I'll even throw Bellinger into that pool, I think any of those 4 guys, Bellinger, Acuna, Tatis, Soto, are very capable of winning an MVP. All of them may very well win MVPs when it's all said and done. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's any of them. I'm going to go with the guy that has the least around him to take away from him, which all these guys are on very good teams. But I think the National League MVP this year is the guy with the worst lineup of these. And you would never thought that the Washington Nationals would have the worst lineup out of all of these. But I'm going to go with Juan Soto. The kid is absolutely incredible, but him and Acuna, both in the National League East. Tatis, of course, on that Padres team. Bellinger on that stacked Dodgers team. It's crazy to me. It is phenomenal as my favorite player in the major leagues right now, Pete Alonso, who's only been in the league. This will be his 3rd year. I actually got to watch a Mets game tonight, most of it. He is 5th all time for most home runs in the first 2 seasons, finishing only 6 behind Joe DiMaggio, which is cool. But especially when you look at the fact they only played 60 games last year, less than half a season, and he was only 6 back. He would have had that record. But when you look at the rate at which Pete Alonso is just crushing baseballs, and I think his best bet is finishing 5th in MVP voting, just because looking at these young guys. So it's crazy. I'm going to go with Soto, but it could be any of those 4. So we kept that different too. So that's good. Let's look at bold predictions. Bennett, how many bold predictions did you write down?
I just did one. I wasn't feeling very froggy, but my bold prediction is definitely a very, very bold prediction. I'm going to say that Shohei Ohtani is going to have 20 wins and 20 plus home runs, which is something that not even Babe Ruth did. Babe Ruth, of course, had seasons with more than 20 home runs. Babe Ruth had seasons with more than 30, 40, 50, 60 home runs. But Babe Ruth never had, he had seasons where he had 20 plus wins, but never the home runs to back it up. So, and Tony's got a great chance to do that. So that's my crazy bold prediction.
He's well on his way, considering he's had, we're a weekend into the season and he's got 1 in each of those columns so far. So he's off to a good start.
Off to a good start. Got to stay healthy.
I wrote down 3 that might be pretty bold. Some maybe more than others. The first one I wrote down, I wrote that the Padres will win 100 games this year and not win the division. For reasons we've already stated so far. That's a possibility. I don't necessarily think they'll get 100 games, but that's my bold prediction. I see them in the high 80s, low 90s as far as wins, but they could easily win 100 games and still be a wild card team just because those dadgum Dodgers. Another bold prediction I had. Of course, I predicted Mike Trout would win MVP of the American League. But I also predicted Rosarina as Rookie of the Year, Giolito as a Cy Young winner. My bold prediction is that Rosarina and Giolito will both finish in the top 3 in American League MVP voting. So not only taking home those other awards, but will be behind Trout in the MVP voting, right behind him. That one's probably my ballsiest pick. And in the third and the final bold prediction I wrote down, there are going to be 2 players in the Major League Baseball this year with 60 plus home runs. And if you pressure me to tell you which 2 players that's going to be, I'm going to say Mike Trout and Pete Alonso.
It's very possible. How close did Pete Alonso get? What was it, 2019?
He had 51, 52.
51. I knew it was over 50.
And then he had 18 last year in a 60 game season. So
Yeah.
Not too bad. Well, Bennett, for a last minute audible and a 2-man show, I think we did pretty well, even if we were on the same wavelength, probably a little too much for entertainment value.
I still don't think it's our most boring episode. I
No,
think we've had bigger duds, and any time we get to talk baseball is a daggum good show in my book.
it absolutely is. I'm so happy it's finally here. Of course, as for those that don't know, you obviously know by the end of the show, I'm a Mets fan, have been for a long time. Been really excited for this season, counting down the days to last Friday, and then somebody on the Nationals gets COVID, and I didn't get to watch a Mets game until tonight. But they were up 2-0 when we started recording. DeGrom had pitched 6 innings of shutout baseball. I'm trying to get a score update right now, and the Mets lost. It is welcome to.
Hey, Rhett, don't feel too bad because I'm a Braves fan, lifelong Braves fan. I'm trying to watch Braves baseball this year, and I have been blacked out so far. So I don't know what I need to do. If there's some sort of illegal stream I need to find, if I just need to move to Atlanta and go to the games myself, I've got to figure out some way to watch me some Braves baseball because this is not acceptable at all. I've been resorting to watching Angels in the Outfield and Field of Dreams, Major League, which don't get me wrong was great, but it just ain't quite the same as live Atlanta Braves baseball.
That's true. Yeah, Jacob DeGrom, 6 innings, 3 hits, 7 Ks, no runs, and the bullpen blows it. So much for what I predicted for him. It's just one game. It'll all come together. And we hope you all will come together for episode 50 next week, our 1-year anniversary. Bennett, I think it's time we tell them what the topic will be. It's been a mini debate and a hodgepodge. It's been bandied about here and there. Next week, me and Elrod finally get to go toe-to-toe in a full format to determine who is the best Batman. Is it Christian Bale? Is it Michael Keaton? Be sure you're here for that next week.
Do I get to moderate that?
Yeah, you do.
Oh my gosh, this is great because usually guys, whenever I get to moderate, it's usually like they're arguing about 2 things that I know less than 0% about, and this is right down my alley. So I'm going to thoroughly enjoy this as much as these guys, as much as y'all listening.
There-
I'm already going to say that episode 50 is going to be my all-time favorite. Forget about this is it. This is the favorite of the favorite, and it hasn't even come about yet.
there will be bloodshed.
I hope so.
You've seen me and Elrod get heated a few times over the last year. This one might take the cake. Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, Best Batman. Next week, our 1-year anniversary, episode 50. We can't wait to bring that to you. So until then, for Mr. Bennett, for Mr. Elrod, who better be back next week, or he forfeits and must forever admit that Michael Keaton is the greatest Batman. We'll find all that out next week. We hope to see you there. Episode 50, the 1-year anniversary. Be here, or we're going to really wish you were. Until then, peace.
Go Braves.
Play ball.